We're on a quest to find the world's best new music and to honor and promote independent artists like you. We hope you'll submit your music and become part of our competition. You'll find the entry form at www.globalmusicawards.com.
Nile, thank you for joining us.
Great to be with you today.
Nile Nickel is a social media expert extraordinaire and also knows a lot about music. So you're the perfect person to have these discussions with. Good. All right, so this discussion is about why musicians need to pay attention to social media and be active in social media and what it does for them and why it's important.
You know, one of the things that I find that so many musicians struggle with is marketing themselves. Because they're artists, and as artists, they don't have to market themselves. Well, the bottom line is if nobody's listening to their music, they can't appreciate the music, they can't connect. What social media does more than any other media, and it's just another type of media, radio, TV, print, advertisement, magazines, and in all of those that everybody's really used to, they're one way. We get a talk, but we generally don't get feedback, and if we get feedback, it comes months later. Well, with social media, the thing that is really fascinating is you could be working on a new song, for example, and maybe you're, as most musicians would, saying, is this any good? I like it, but does anybody else? Yeah. Well, now you could actually share that on social media and get feedback on it literally right away. But not only do you get the feedback, you may or may not want that. You may want to preserve your art form and not take any outside input. But what you get when you go through this process is you get the involvement of people. They feel like they're participating with you. Or you're talking about a piece of music or a song that you did that it was really difficult for you to write. Because it's an expression of an emotion that you've dealt with. And as such, when you share that struggle, people really engage with that struggle because they're struggling too. And after all, as a musician, you're trying to touch those people.
Yeah, sure. It's fine to be a musician, wonderful to be a musician and just go out and perform and people hear your music. But when musicians try to make a living from the music, then it becomes a business, whether or not the musician really intends to be a business person.
Yeah.
And one of the first lessons of business, like Business 101, is that you have to keep in touch with the people who like you and like your music, because if you keep in touch with them, then when you produce a new album or when you're having some sort of a concert or tour, they will be ready to buy tickets from you because you're in touch with them.
Right.
But if you perform and you don't collect information to stay in touch with your fans, you can't sell to them later.
Yeah, and one of the things that I almost hate to hear sometimes is when people are sharing on social media to build their list. Now, certainly that is a core strategy. You would like to do that, but it's a secondary part of what you really need to do. The social media platform is really there for you to engage. And that's the key word, to engage with those folks.
So social media is social.
It's social.
About a relationship.
It's about a relationship.
It's about building relationships.
And if you're a musician, guess what? Especially if you're starting out, a lot of your performances are at times that by the time you're done with your performance, you're pretty exhausted and the crowd's pretty exhausted. And so you might have the best intentions of talking to anybody that's interested in talking to you. Your body may have different thoughts about that, or you may not come across as well.
So what's
as you
the
should.
solution?
So the whole thing is you engage with them on social media beforehand and after, because one of the things that I know a number of musicians like to express. You and I, before the interview today, we talked about Taylor Swift as an example. she would love, I mean literally, it's her heart, she would love to talk to every fan that buys any piece of her music, comes to any one of her concert venues, sees her perform anywhere. She can't do that. There's not enough of her to go around. However, what she can do is she can have a one-to-many conversation with them. And what happens that's really magic, in fact, it's sort of a third member of the band, if you will, that comes into play, or fourth or fifth, is that the fans actually start interacting with each other. And sometimes there's a question there, and the fan knows an answer to it. They answer it for you. So,
the chicken or egg, you have to have the way to reach the fans before they can, So how do you build the contact information with the fans?
Well, every time you perform, as corny as you might think it sounds, and as much as you might object to it, what you do is you just say, hey, I would really love to talk to each one of you. That's probably not going to happen tonight for a whole bunch of reasons, but I would love for you to connect with me on whatever the platform is, Facebook,
So
Twitter.
which would be the most important platforms in general for musicians?
Facebook and Twitter.
So they follow you on Twitter and they like you on Facebook, and then what happens? Then what do you do if you're a musician wanting to reinforce your relationship with fans?
Sure. You try to respond to as many of those messages as you can. You try to answer them personally, not an assistant, not a press agent, not an office manager, not anything else. You respond to them, because what are you trying to share? You're trying to share your voice, and if it's not your voice, it doesn't resonate the same way.
The way music is sold is changing rapidly. I mean, the sales of music now aren't just in one place. It's like there are lots of smaller sales in lots of places. One of the sort of, I don't know, models of some musicians is that they like to be aloof. They like to stand back. They don't want to reveal much about themselves. What's your opinion of that, working on social media?
Well, I think I would say my opinion of that, not only from a social media standpoint, but literally from an engagement standpoint in person, is it just doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
Let's pose it a different way. They're intrigued by your music. They're intrigued by your message. They don't know you much, and you're aloof. They can't learn much about you or anything else. So the engagement level with that person stays at a minimal level. On the other hand, sort of the same situation, same music, same situation, message, and all that, but you engage. Now all of a sudden, not only are you talking to them, but you engaged with them. They're talking to their friends.
Exactly.
They're sharing posts on there. Other people are reading it, because when you share a conversation with them, you're not sharing with them. You're sharing with them and all of their friends.
Because they feel good about it and they tell their friends.
Well, not only that, but it's on their wall.
Yeah, that's
true. It's in their feed. So you're not talking to just one person when you're talking to one person. It's like being on stage when that fan yells out something and you start a dialogue, and maybe you have fun with it. Maybe it's not a heckler, but it's something that interacts. And there's a good story about that just happened earlier this year with Garth Brooks at a concert, where a mom was a cancer patient. She came in and she had a sign. It touched him from the stage. He stopped the song. Now, granted, it was an encore song, but he stopped the song. He addressed her one-on-one. And what happened with that message? It went viral. It showed up everywhere. Now, you could love Garth Brooks, you could hate Garth Brooks. Really doesn't matter. Look at the message. Look what happened. It was unbelievable. And it went like wildfire across
Yeah,
the internet.
being real and being yourself really has payoff.
Oh, it does. It does.
In general, in music, in life.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, people engage with music because it touches them somewhere.
yeah, exactly.
Well, guess what? You have to touch them the same way.
So I want to move to a little bit of a different topic. You do the blogging, you do the podcast. So you have to use the internet when you think of somebody that maybe you like their music or you like whatever, and
Sure.
you want to do a little research
Sure.
about them. And you go out on the web, and if you can't find anything, what's it make you feel?
Well, if I can't find anything, the story's probably not going to get done. It's that simple.
What if you find terrible photos or a website that just looks so terrible, or they posted YouTube videos that are shot from the back of the room and the sound is awful?
Yeah, obviously, the lower quality items you have to engage, the lower quality of article as a blogger or a reporter that I'm going to be able to do. So if I've got access to great photos, and guess what? I don't need a ton of them. I just need a few. Maybe some real background story. Maybe a couple of pieces of music that I could share. Now, you remember I talked about doing the rest of the song. I have to share it in blog form because I can't always share the music.
Right.
Well, if you share the music on social media, on YouTube or anything like that, even if it happens to be a short little 30-second segment of it, I could share that.
You can
So
link it.
I could link it. I could do all sorts of things with it. So I'd rather find more than less. If I can't find anything, there's no story for me to do.
I'm with you. I'd rather, when I'm trying to figure out something about a musician who might enter Global Music Awards, and I just want more information, I want to find something of high quality, a really good audio sound, a really good photo, a really good biography, something that makes me know they're credible. And I think fans don't differ from this. I think if somebody hears some music and they say, hey, I kind of like this, I want to know more, they're going to do the research. And if they find junk posted on the web about the person, they're going to not believe in the credibility of the music. It's going to bias them in a negative way.
Well, and I'll give you a little inside tip.
All right. Love tips.
When you look at songs, and we'll talk songs because that's generally what we're talking about, there's lyrics that go with those songs. Well, there are a number of lyric sites out there.
Yep.
But if you are a small band starting up and all that, you're not going to be found on the lyric sites.
Right.
Well, if you happen to post bits and pieces of your song, but you put the full lyric in the notes in the YouTube section, for example, well, that now becomes searchable. Because what happens? People hear a song and they hear a catchphrase in that song that they like. And you don't know where it's at in the song. I mean, it could be beginning, middle, end, bridge, whatever. Right. But they hear something that resonates with them. And what do? They type that phrase into Google to search it. And if they could find it, guess what they did? They just engaged with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, being out there and being real is, a part of being successful as a musician.
It is.
So, well, now, what have I not asked you that should be said?
Well, one of the things that I do is I really try to share very simple, down-to-earth tips, and I cover the gamut across social media. I focus on LinkedIn, which is my main site, linkedinfocus.com, but I really share all sorts of social media tips and business building tips. And they're applicable to any business. You might say, well, I'm a musician. I'm not a businessman. This doesn't work for me. It really does. So They could get all that information from me and follow me and interact with me at socialmediabusinesshour.com, which is also, as I said, on iTunes and on Stitcher.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was
Appreciate
a pleasure. And thank you.
We encourage you to submit your best music to Global Music Awards. Receiving our honors will impact you in incredibly positive ways and expose your music to a wider audience, including music industry insiders. Submit your best music to Global Music Awards so we can help boost you to the top. You'll find the entry form at www.globalmusicawards.com.